Hello people, I'm Ginny Metheral and I'm a fourth generation witch. I want to talk today about the high point of summer, the summer solstice, that the Wiccans know as Litha and I call a Midsummer, and show you the rites, the rituals and the traditions for you to celebrate this most marvellous of festivals. Midsummer is one of my favourite festivals because I love summer. I love the sun. I think I should be living in Africa, not in Northern Europe. It doesn't really suit me. However, I do get to celebrate the amazing seasonal variation that we have here in the UK and the beauteousness that is midsummer. A midsummer is all about the sun. It's a solar festival. And so we're going to delve a little deeper into what you would want to do and how you might use your witchcraft in honour of this season. The summer solstice, which is when the sun is at its highest point in the sky, happens slightly before midsummer. Traditionally, we've always celebrated Midsummer around the 24th of June, and it can go on for several days, 24th to the 29th, something along those lines. Whereas the summer solstice, the high point, happens on the 20th, 21st, 22nd, depending on the year, because it's a slightly movable feast. The Christians, of course, took over Midsummer, using it as the Feast of St. John, in order to try and, Christianise the pagan festivals that they found in our lands. And they took on the pagan rites that we were using, such as the bonfire tradition. What I want to do is just go through what a pagan, witchy, Wiccan person might do to celebrate this time of year. And in order, of course, to find out about this, I just want to give you a tiny little bit of the folklore behind it. It is said that it is on Midsummer where the goddess of the dawn and the god of dusk mingle together in love for the one night of the year, and the rest of the time they gaze at each other across the day and across the night, yearning to be close again. And so it is a very celebratory time. Depending on your magical persuasion, you might celebrate Midsummer on the summer solstice, or you might celebrate it on traditional Midsummer, which is the 23rd, 24th. I don't think it really matters which one you use. The astronomical one is possibly the more correct, but being a traditional witch, I like to celebrate it on the 24th. So, with that said, how would you celebrate Midsummer? Well, midsummer is the high point of the year, and the high point of the year means that herbs are ready to be harvested. Not all herbs, but a lot are in full flower at the moment, and so this is the time that you do so. Now, what you need to do is to follow the traditions for, picking herbs, which I think is to go out with a silver sickle at moonlight or a golden sickle in the sunlight, and using your non-dominant hand, cut the herbs, pour libations on the earth, and then offer those herbs up to the sun or the moon for their blessing, depending on which ones you're cutting and when. I explain this in a bit more detail in my June video, which I'll put up here for you so that you can see exactly how to do it. Do have a look, because it's got a little bit about it in Midsummer, which I won't include in this video. The herbs are at their most potent. The traditional herbs for Midsummer to cut are St. John's wort and mistletoe. The most potent mistletoe should be cut from the oak tree. And so if you can find oak growing on mistletoe, which is not its natural habitat, may I say, then use that. You cut mistletoe by the light of the sun. So midday on Midsummer's Day is the time to cut it, using a golden sickle, or a bronze sickle would work, I think, or anything other than iron, because iron would disrupt the energy bonds within the mistletoe. So don't use iron, or for any cutting of herbs, actually. This mistletoe can then be dried and used in rituals and ceremonies throughout the year until the next mistletoe is cut at the winter solstice. But of course, the winter solstice is the mirroring solstice for the summer. The other herb that you should go out and cut if you have the chance is St. John's wort. It's called St. John's wort because it was named by the Christian church as it flowered as St. John's feast day. However, they were just trying to Christianise it, because St. John's wort, the old name, is chase devil. It is used as a protective herb. Bundles of it would be cut and hung above doorways, above your crib, above your bed, above your windows, above everywhere that you can possibly think, in order to chase away the devil. Hence its name, chase devil. St. John's wort is in the height of its energies, and it is a brilliant herb to use. It can lift depression, although someone did say in one of my videos last time, beware, it has a knock-on effect to certain other drugs that you're taking, so do consult your doctor before taking it as a herb relief. But it does have a wonderful summery happiness to it. That bright yellow glow really does make your heart sing. Although I have said that St. John's wort should be cut at the high point of the day at midday on Midsummer, you can also cut it at dawn when the dew is on it, because the dew will then have magical properties. You can use this dew to take it off the leaves, wipe it into your face. It will give you wondrous complexion, and it really will. It's full of all sorts of good stuff, that dew. You can also save the dew in tiny tear bottles and use it in spells in the next week or so. It is a very potent liquid, blessed by the sun, blessed by Midsummer, blessed by St. John's wort, blessed by the moon, and picked on a high point of the day. If that's not energetic power, I don't know what is. The Feast of Litha falls on a Saturday this year. Now, this is quite important because Saturday is traditionally the fairies' Sabbat day. This is particularly auspicious because Midsummer is a day to see the fae. This is when the fairy king rides out as opposed to the fairy court riding out. It is very much the king rides out and they process throughout the land having a fun time. So you might well be able to see them today. The best time, I think, to see the fae is actually either at dawn or dusk. It's those liminal times, possibly midnight, but it's a bit dark then. Fae don't like being spied on though, so watch out that you don't interact with them because no good will necessarily come of it. Unless you see a leprechaun today, whereupon you can grab them and not taking your eyes off them, because that's important. If you take your eyes from a leprechaun, they will not give you the wish you can be entitled to. So, as I said previously, the pagan practices for Midsummer are all in counterpoint to the winter solstice. And the winter solstice, as you know, thinking back to it, uses mistletoe and fires. And that's what they use in the summer. But these are huge outdoor bonfires as opposed to a Yule log. The outdoor bonfires are danced around and sung around. They are lit on the top of hills to show everyone that the sun is at its zenith. They mark the occasion and celebrate it. Sun wheels were used to represent the rising and the falling of the sun. So people would stand quite far away and somebody would go to the top of the mountain and throw a burning sun wheel, which is a wheel which has been covered in tar, set alight, and roll it off the mountain, which from afar looks like the sun coming down from its zenith. Cornwall, being a particularly pagan part of the world and loving midsummer, does like to process around in the old style with lit torches through the village. This is to drive out the evil spirits, purify the land, and celebrate the sun. The bonfires themselves were lit with different sources, so they might use bones, as in bone fire, bonfire, that's where we get the word from. These bones would create a black, thick smoke which would scatter over the land and purify it. It is also known, and this is an important one, that the smoke from a bonfire will keep away the dragons. They don't like bonfires, and that's why they were used. Of course, there was dancing around the bonfires. Why not? If you see a bonfire, you have to dance around it, really, don't you? I've never been to a bonfire without dancing around it. I think it's the natural witch in me. I can't help it. See a bonfire, do a bit of dancing, which I have to say I love. I think it's a good fun thing to do. So if you have been harvesting your plants and herbs today, why not throw a couple of those on the bonfire, as the old druids used to do, as an offering of the sun and a celebration of the land, because this is what this day is. And finally, bonfires also mean that you can cook your meat. Don't you tell me that they wouldn't have lit a bonfire and not put a spit of meat on it. Cook your meat on the bonfire if you can, or at the very least, maybe toast a marshmallow. Fires, when they're lit during pagan festivals, tend to signify, in fact, they always signify joy and celebration. And this is what Midsummer is. But fires were also very, very closely connected with wells, or sacred springs at least. And so they would light these bonfires by their sacred springs or by their wells, and this would ensure that both were blessed. And the wells were then dressed with flowers, and we have this still carrying on. It is much more detailed than it was, I presume, 1,000 years ago. But the wells are still dressed in certain parts of England, and it is a very great tradition. This is an old, old custom that came definitely via our pagan past. Southwest of England, where I live, has the Midsummer as a time for witches, and especially in Cornwall. There is a wonderful giant rock between the villages of Zenor and Wicca, which were known as being an initiation rock. So if you walked around this rock 9 times anti-clockwise, you would receive the powers of the witch. They also said that the witches gathered on the tops of hills on this night because it was a night that they renewed their vows to the old ones. Hence why the people of the land would take their St. John's wort, or chase devil, to chase away those witches and those devils. And after all the renewal of their vows to the old one, a feast would follow, as well as revels. So those sort of naked witches dancing around a bonfire is not necessarily too far from the truth, because it's quite nice to get naked occasionally and dance around a bonfire. I used to do it in my youth, recommend it highly. And let's face it, midsummer's the time to get out there and do this. Now, you might well not be able to light a bonfire outside. It does require a lot of land and a lot of safe areas to do it in. Not my house. We burnt down a bit of our wood once when we lit a bonfire near midsummer. Oops. Anyway, moving swiftly on. The best thing, therefore, you can do is to have a flame ceremony, and that is simply lighting a candle. Everyone can then take their candle light from that central flame and place it in a circle around where you are celebrating. And then you can party, have games and feasts, maybe pour some libations on the ground and offer up your herbs to the sun, the moon, the stars, whoever you are celebrating at this time of year. It is a solar festival, but it also is a moon festival too, because they work in conjunction together, and it is a beautiful time just to say congratulations. I am, of course, going to be lighting my bonfire. I'm going to be holding a small bonfire ceremony. So I'm going to get my attendees to this party to jump over the bonfire and bring purification and luck to their lives. Then a feast will follow, possibly with some dancing around the bonfire, a lot of music and fun and revels. I would love to know how you're going to celebrate it. Leave me a comment below and tell me, because I do so enjoy hearing other people's ways of celebrating such a high point of the year. Well, it's a high point for me because I love the summer. This is my time. If you want to learn more about this, there is a witchcraft course on Patreon at the moment, which everyone seems to be really enjoying, and you can pick it up and do it at your own pace. It is very much marked by me, not anybody else. So do go to patreon.com/Ginny Metheral and check it out. Otherwise, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.